7 is pleased to present Austin Faith Dialogue, brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries. In the weeks ahead, you will see these and other programs by various denominations.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program discussing the important crossroad of religion in life, produced by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues throughout our area. Now, today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. We're here today to talk about something that occurred about 4 months ago that was extraordinarily important for the parties that are involved. I'm referring to a historic agreement between the Vatican, the leadership structure of the Roman Catholic Church, and the Israeli government. It brought together these two parties after a long period of poor communication, misunderstanding, and quite frankly, if you want to go back through the centuries, a lot of pain, suffering, and injustice. This particular agreement brings two of the world's great faiths and among the older religious traditions of this planet into a structure that enables them to communicate and to develop programs together in harmony and cooperation instead of bitterness and a break in dialogue. Joining us this morning are Father David Yeager, a key official of the Diocese of Austin, and Rabbi Mark Sack, a prominent Austin religious leader in the Jewish community. I want to thank both of you for being present here today, and I look forward to an opportunity for Father Yeager, especially if you would lead off, to tell us exactly what is this all about. Why would the Vatican, 108 acres, located in the center of Rome in the Italian peninsula, enter into an agreement with the state of Israel, 1,000 miles away, and what's, if you could tell us briefly why this agreement was necessary and what does it touch on?
As you said, Bishop, when we say the Vatican, we mean the leadership structure of the Roman Catholic Church of 900 million believers throughout the world. And the agreement was necessary on the simplest level in order to gain for the Catholic Church in Israel, in the Holy Land, a recognized legal status and a guarantee of sufficient freedom to carry out her functions. On a more elevated level, you might say, the agreement opens up the potential for cooperation between the Holy See, that is the Vatican, the Catholic Church, and the State of Israel in the promotion on the international scene of values that are dear to both sides, such as the fight against racism, anti-Semitism, religious intolerance, and positively speaking, the promotion of the peaceful resolution of conflicts, the values of justice, harmony, and solidarity among nations and peoples.
Well, I failed in the introduction, Father Yeager, to point out the fact that you were a key worker in behind the scenes in this, all of these negotiations. You are a citizen of Israel, are you not?
Yes, I am.
We're very blessed to have you helping the Diocese of Austin at this particular time, and quite proud of the fact that you've been going back and forth. Rabbi Sack, Father Yeager touched on several important points, but from my perspective, and I'm sure from yours, one important aspect of this agreement is the recognition of the State of Israel by the Holy See, by the Vatican. I know I've worked very closely with the Jewish community over the last 20, 25 years in different parts of the United States and here in Texas, and I know that this has been a real sticking point in the Jewish community, that whereas the Soviet Union may have recognized, speaking out of history, recognized Israel and 110 other countries possibly, but the Vatican dragged its feet on that issue. That particular problem is now behind us, and I personally, speaking as a Christian, I want to thank Father Yeager for having a part in that, because I think it's an important step forward. But could you give us your reaction and perspective on this whole situation as you see it?
Sure. For the Jewish community, the State of Israel is not just another country where a couple of million Jews live. The state of Israel has intense historic and symbolic significance for us. It is our homeland, and most of us consider it the center of Jewish religious life, a center out of which radiates Jewish spirituality to the rest of the Jewish community. And so the Vatican's recognition of Israel goes beyond the recognition of one political entity. It really puts to rest, in my opinion, one of the biggest sticking points between the Catholic Church and not only the state of Israel, but indeed the entire Jewish community. As you said before, this is an historic agreement. It's historic because it puts aside or changes much of the history between the Catholic Church and the Jewish community. For centuries, we Jews have felt that the Catholic Church has not taken us seriously, indeed has held us perhaps in contempt. We Jews did not accept the messianic mission of Jesus. And for centuries, the Catholic Church felt that because of that, that we were second class, not only in the eyes of human beings, but indeed in God's eyes. That we were not worthy of God's blessing because we did not accept the messianic mission of Jesus. Because we were unworthy in God's eyes, that gave license to too many people, often with the cooperation of the church, to persecute, to exile, to treat Jews as less than full human beings. At this point, with the Vatican's recognition of Israel and the establishment of diplomatic relations, it feels that that issue has been put aside, that the Catholic Church and the Jewish people now see each other as full equals and can work together as partners to alleviate suffering in the world and to solve some of the social problems that all of us face.
Well, I certainly hope that you're accurate there. I wouldn't want in a conversation like this to belabor the past, but our common story is a very long tragedy. From the Christian perspective, the hostility begins really in the 1st century.
Yes, it does.
And as Christianity expands and becomes powerful, and Judaism is restricted to a particular group, or whether you want to say it racially or ethnically, it doesn't matter, but to Judaism by its nature is not expansive and messianic in terms of trying to bring everybody into it, as the Christian thrust is. Then with this massive expansion of Christianity in the Mediterranean and in Europe, you had then the beginnings of the very cruel oppression that would go on for more than 1,000 years, the creation of the ghettos, and then I think culminated in our lifetime. And the Holocaust doesn't just begin with some ideas of Adolf Hitler in 1933. The Holocaust is possible only because of what you just said. Structured hatred in the minds of so many men and women who are committed to be followers of Jesus Christ, and yet at the same time have developed a failure to appreciate the importance of Judaism in the Christian story. Father Yeager, how do you see that in terms of a committed Christian and the need for an appreciation and respect for and cooperation with Judaism? I don't mean an individual Jew. I don't mean a family. We've all, even in the worst of our suspicion and prejudice, we've always been able to jump over that with individuals, but there's a structured hostility in our story. You are in a position more than anybody else in the United States to see the possibilities for breaking through that. May I ask how you see it?
Yes, I think that all that has been negative in Christian-Jewish relations was not due to anything found in the relationship itself, essentially, but to other factors abusing elements of religious belief. Anti-Semitism developed like any other kind of racism or xenophobia for well-known sociological and psychosocial reasons, with people abusing, misusing elements of their religious faith and culture to justify those atavistic impulses. Now that we have purified, since Vatican II especially, that we have purified our vision of our religious heritage, each one's religious heritage and each other's religious heritage, of these alien accretions, I see that the solid basis of our common biblical vision of God and creation provides us with ample grounds for common testimony. If you think of the fundamental assertion of the Bible that we share of human beings created in the image of God.
Father Yeager, when you were there in the Vatican and in Tel Aviv, working as a staff person for throughout these, I can't quite see that the Israeli government, and God forgive me, even some Vatican officials who were there, looking at it from quite that perspective.
From the perspective of the institutions concerned, the agreement that we reached is read plainly as an agreement between sovereign entities on the freedom of the church in the Jewish state of Israel and on international cooperation. But once we speak of these, our common theological values are the ground of the commonality of discourse. We are both committed to freedom of religion precisely because we embrace the biblical vision of human dignity, which does not admit of coercion. This is also why we are both committed to racial justice, to social justice. So, I mean, the biblical values and our common vision of God and the world are the solid and necessary basis of all the diplomatic and legal initiatives we have taken and will take.
Rabbi Zach, do you share that optimism of joint ventures for the betterment of society present all across the world? Because although our numbers may differ, we're both worldwide faiths.
Yes, I do share the optimism. Since Vatican II in the middle 1960s, I think the Catholic Church and the Jewish community have moved steadily and progressively towards greater understanding, towards putting aside the issues that over centuries divided us. For sure, between the mid-1960s and 1994, we have had our disagreements. A convent at Auschwitz, which fortunately was successfully resolved. But yes, I do share Father Yeager's vision. I think there is a lot of room and a good deal of friendship that has been built up over the last close to 30 years now between our communities. There is room for further understanding, for cooperative efforts, for joint studies of Jewish and Catholic history, certainly history around the time of Jesus, studies that are progressing nicely and changing.
That's an interesting aspect, that the world of academia is working closer together too.
Absolutely.
And I'm a beneficiary of that cooperation. I had the opportunity in an earlier assignment to work very closely with the American Jewish Committee, the Anti-Defamation League, and half a dozen other Jewish organizations at the national level, where between the national staff of the Roman Catholic Church and the Jewish leaders in the social field, there was tremendous cooperation. We're going to take a break for just a moment. I ask you to stick with us, and we'll be back in very briefly with Austin Faith Dialogue.
Serving Austin means serving you. Each day, Austin Metropolitan Ministries is religion in action, providing affordable housing, caring for the elderly, marching against hunger, and much more. AMM promotes understanding, cooperation, and social involvement. So when we ask for your help, we're really asking to help you, Austin. To find out how you can help Austin Metropolitan Ministries help Austin through its member organizations, just call 472-7627.
Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue, where this morning we're discussing the relationship between the Roman Catholic Church and the Israeli government, the Israeli nation, and Jewish people all across the world, because an agreement that was just reached a few months ago between these two entities brought about a rapprochement that many regretted was so long in coming, but are so happy that it is here. Rabbi Zach, the agreement that Father Yeager referred to, and that all three of us are very interested in, talked about joint efforts to eradicate all kinds of conflict among human beings, but one thing that has to be paramount in all of our interests right now is anti-Semitism. Can I ask you, where do we stand in the United States today, from your perspective in the issue of anti-Semitism, vis-a-vis maybe 20 years ago, or where we want to go in the future? I know where we want to go in the future, but where are we today?
Okay. Let me start by saying that I think the Catholic Church, prompted by Vatican II, has taken a leading role in eradicating anti-Semitism from church teachings and really throughout the world. That has been a great boon to us in the Jewish community, and one that we are very thankful for, and one for which the Church deserves a good deal of credit. I think we are making steady progress on the issue of anti-Semitism. Interestingly, the movie Schindler's List that came out at the end of last year and that continues to show and continues to draw significant crowds, I think has gone a long way to telling the story of Jewish suffering and the dangers to which hatred and persecution can rise when directed by one people against another. Anti-Semitism is not gone, and there are some hot spots that we in the Jewish community are very concerned about and are directing our attention to at this time.
Well, I asked about the United States, but I have to sit here and be conscious of certain manifestations of it in Germany, which is cause for concern, and then the transfer of some of those concepts and actions into the parts of the United States. So groups like skinheads, who really are a very small group now, but very neo-Nazi in their orientation and thinking and the way they manifest their ideas. That's got to be a source of concern, because when Adolf Hitler started in 26, he did not have a lot of people. He had a bunch of thugs, but he was able to move that forward into the Nazi Party.
We are concerned about skinheads and also about the social conditions that lead to the rise of those racist ideologies. And Jewish anti-defamation groups like the Anti-Defamation League, the American Jewish Congress, are working carefully to teach about Judaism and to teach about the dangers of racist ideology. Unfortunately, it's not only skinheads that we are concerned about, but we are working carefully, and hopefully we will continue slowly and progressively, and with the help of institutions like the Church, to eradicate anti-Semitism and really interracial hatred against all groups.
I really hope we can do that together.
Me too.
Father Yeager, you were an important player in, you may not say it, but I can say it, You were of great assistance to the work between the, what you were doing was sort of reaching back and pulling all of the good from yesterday and tying it together in a new relationship between Israel and the Vatican. That's yesterday and today. What about tomorrow? What's in our future together? And I'll ask Rabbi Zach to join you on this.
I hope for cooperation internationally on various issues. Cooperation in the Middle East peace process, particularly in injecting into it not only political compromise, but also the values of human rights and religious liberty, of which the Middle East as a whole stands much in need. I can see cooperation at the United Nations in advancing stalled international treaties on religious freedom. I can see vast, diffuse cooperation encouraged by this treaty between Catholics and Jews everywhere, in the line that Rabbi Sack has traced, that is, of standing up together to the promotion of all kinds of racial hatred, anti-Semitism, and religious bigotry. I think many of us, Catholics and Jews, share the concerns you mentioned about the resurgence of anti-Semitism together with other kinds of bigotry and hatred in places in the old world, and the recognition that in the new world we are not immune. It was very significant recently, sadly significant, that the recent public attack classed together Jews and the Holy Father as objects of hatred, and that's not accidental. We stand together on this. But we must remember that if we wish to defend either Catholics or Jews from bigotry, we must defend everyone. We must stand up for every minority, for every group that is subject to discrimination or to the promotion of exclusion and hatred.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. I wonder, though, if we could come back, it's a little bit off on a tangent, but Rabbi, you said something very important. You not only want to do something about anti-Semitism and interracial, intergroup hatred, but you want to do something about the conditions that cause it. Is it not correct that when you have a failed economic system, there's large pools of poverty, people who are desperate look for somebody to blame it on?
Absolutely.
Traditionally, they have found you as a key target, but they found the rest of us too at one time or another.
Absolutely. I think it's the mission of both of our groups to work for social and economic justice in the United States and throughout the world. Until we achieve a situation where people feel that they have economic opportunities and opportunities for advancement, I think that Jews and other minority groups will be subject to bigotry and prejudice. Let me just say that I think one area where both of us can work together and probably are working together is in the area of Bosnia. We are all concerned about rumors of ethnic slaughter going on there. That's one place where both Catholics and Jews can reach out and extend a helping hand.
What would your contribution be? Influencing governments where there's Jews are a measurable percentage of the population, such as the United States, or do you have a presence in Bosnia right now? Was there a sizable Jewish population within Bosnia?
There was a Jewish population in Bosnia, and the Israeli government worked behind the scenes to help rescue not only some Jews in Bosnia, but also to rescue some Muslim children in Bosnia. We can work together to make sure that there is food, medical supplies, that we can help refugees get out of Bosnia, and hopefully our governments can work behind the scene to nudge the parties towards some kind of peaceful resolution of their centuries-old conflict.
Well, we certainly can develop that kind of partnership. It's going to be a great step forward.
I think that though our first and most urgent task in situations such as Bosnia is to strip the religious justification away from people who are hating and killing each other, saying that they are doing so either to defend Christian values or to stem an Islamic advance into Europe or whatever it is. We must show them up for what they are. On the relating to what Father Rabbi Sachs said before.
He is a father.
This is evidence of our greater intimacy. On social justice, our mission here is a common one, not because of some accidental political choices, but precisely because the Hebrew scriptures that we share present us with a vision of human beings in the world as a society, as a community.
The whole family. The whole
Exactly,
family, yeah.
as a family, as responsible for each other. A vision which is in stark opposition to those who would have us believe that human living in the world is a Darwinian free-for-all. And I think this is the challenge that we have to present to society here and elsewhere nowadays, to live as a family throughout the nation and across national boundaries.
I may make a
Couldn't agree
mistake
more.
in bringing it up because we don't have a great deal of time, but the tradition in this country in referring to the three great faiths was always Protestant, Catholic, and Jew. Now we have the reality of the presence of large numbers and rapidly growing number of Muslims. That's difficult for many Americans to come to grips with and may complicate Jewish-Muslim relations in this country. Do you have any feel for that, Rabbi?
I know that there are groups within the Jewish community who are setting up dialogue programs.
Great.
With members of the Muslim community. I think they are fledgling at this time, but certainly something that we need to continue to pursue.
Well, Rabbi, you and I, all the three of us, we know our story. We know that it's a story of sinful humanity, of mistakes made in the past, sometimes mistakes that would carry a terrible price for innocent people. I thank God, and I know that all of us do, that that's over. And I want to thank you, Father David Yeager, for your part in helping to bring about that agreement. The rest of us, we're praying for you. We're together now. Let's go forward into the future. God bless your work.
Thank you. You too.